Back home now, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has spoken at the Gama Festival, and it was all about the voice referendum. This follows a fiery week in Parliament. Joining me is the founder of Small Business Women Australia, Amanda Rose. What did you think of the Prime Minister yesterday? I suppose very predictable. And what happens next?
Well, it is, but what I would like to see is diversity in topics and conversations. So not just push one particular thing that you're trying to get across the line, especially now during the cost of living crisis, a housing crisis, because what happens is you actually turn people off. So people will switch off on what you're having to say if you're constantly talking about the one issue and ignoring the rest. So here's a better chance discussing a range of issues with people to say, well, I'm representing everyone here and I am listening to you, but regarding the voice, these are the key concerns you're wanting to know about, and I'm here to communicate that.
You've been in the nation's capital this week, in Canberra, of course, a fairly bruising sitting week. Where do you think it's going to finish, the referendum? I think the Prime Minister, he went into this with all the good intentions, and he would have thought politically this is a feel-good story. It hasn't really turned out that way at this point.
No, it hasn't, because the one thing, Australians are quiet often about what they support, especially if they feel like if they're going to speak out, they'll get attacked. But the biggest concern that I'm getting from people asking questions, could you give me more details? That's all people want. Genuinely, people really care about Indigenous Australia, especially the children, and they want something done. However, they're asking questions that aren't being answered. That's the key. So we need to be more transparent, have more access to what it means if you vote yes and what it means if you vote no.
Peter Dutton critics are saying he's just doing this politically. He's pushing back because for him he sees it as good politics. Bruce Hawker, who sat in that chair yesterday, brought up something that's interesting, because if it doesn't get up and then you get to the next election, this could really hurt Peter Dutton, because we saw what happened with the Teals with the last election.
Well, what's interesting is that the whole process of a voice started 6 or 7 years ago. So I think what the Liberals would most likely do is still do something of similar nature, but not the same way. So still have a voice, so that could actually tell the community we're still on the same page, about what we want to do for the Indigenous community, but we're going about it a different way. But you never know in politics. You really never know people's true agendas until it's too late. So you've got to really ask the questions and go with your gut.
Okay, 4-day working week. What do you think?
Look, this is great for those professional service firms that can do KPI-based work, and a lot of people push it. However, I think there's miscommunication about what it actually means. It doesn't mean 4 longer days, it means 4 days with 5 days pay, but retail and hospitality can't do that. So if you're creating something, you can't do that. If you're making something, you say, well, you're getting paid more to make the exact same thing, which will increase the price at the end. So I think people need to look at it as, does this work in my business? And if it does, great. But remember, large companies can absorb a lot of the cost. Small businesses can't. So therefore, small businesses might miss out on employee retention.
What are you observing on the ground regarding flexible workspaces? Because COVID obviously changed everything. Everything was thrown out and people were working from home. Is it a model which just won't work long term? Do we look at some sort of hybrid? I know a lot of big firms are saying you've got to come back into the office.
They are, and I think they're going a bit too aggressive when they say come back 5 days, because people have literally spent their lives for 2 years now working in a hybrid situation.
Pajamas.
Exactly. Some organisations can't do that. So if you're working in a law firm and your job is to print things and file them and so forth, and it's very hard to do that from home. So you've really got to negotiate with your employer, but look at the realities of it. And I know a lot of people talk about, you miss out on opportunities when you're in the office, and it is somewhat true. So I think you've got to be smart. You've got to negotiate with your manager and boss and say, look, how about I do 3 days in the office, 2 at home, but this is what I'll do on those 2 days. So it is doable, but I find it very unlikely that most people want to go back 5 days.
Personally, and I don't know where you'd put us, middle age, I don't know what you call it.
Not yet.
But you're very, very close. I know I am there. But looking at younger people, my advice would be try and get into the office, because it's not just about what you're doing at work. It's about your social life. It's about that whole balance. And you have so much fun, don't you?
You do, and you also listen. So you listen to other conversations. So your manager might be talking about something. You're learning how to handle a situation based on what they've done. So it's just being in the environment can be very powerful for you. I think the whole saving travel time is a really big selling factor for working from home. So maybe look for jobs closer to where you are, or again, have that negotiation or change your work hours so you can beat the traffic. But definitely, I would say if you can, get into the office as much as possible.